Hello, everyone. This is Rick, and welcome to Astral Club. This is astral time travel to 60 million years ago. Before we get into it, just want to mention Patreon. You can join and support our work here at Astral Club, spreading knowledge of astral projection. When you do join, you get advanced videos on Sunday with no commercials and an email where we can talk back and forth and you can share your experiences. We have a new patron, Anita Zygmundova, who is an astral master. So thank you very much. And if you're interested in joining her and the many others, there'll be a link in the description where you can do that. Next up, private lessons. If you're interested in a private lesson for astral projection to begin projecting or just expand your knowledge and expand your abilities in the astral, I'll be glad to help you out. You'll find an email in the description as well where you can request further information. Okay, when I was a kid, like many kids, as baby boomers, and I'm sure it's not that different today, we were very much interested in dinosaurs, the whole world of the dinosaurs. I remember the first art project I ever did, and probably the height of my art ability, was making what was called at that time a brontosaurus. Now I believe it's a patasaurus, but I made this large dinosaur as my clay object for holding pencils. So I was quite enamored with these beasts. Of course, back then they were depicted as slow monsters that could barely stumble their way into a tar pit. Of course, now we know that they were actually, creatures that had the intelligence they needed to survive for many millions of years in their environment. We also know nowadays that the dinosaurs disappeared around 65.5 million years ago when an asteroid about the size of Mount Everest crashed into the Yucatan Peninsula, pretty much scrambling the Etch-a-Sketch that was the biosphere of Earth at that point, and ended up wiping out all actually, of the non-avian dinosaurs. What I didn't know, and what we never even thought about, was what happened afterwards. I know at least there was a gap in my education as a U.S. citizen back then. We knew about the dinosaurs, and then the next thing we knew about the woolly mammoths and maybe the woolly rhinoceroses and creatures that lived during an ice age. We're talking 12, 15,000 years or so in the past. But we never really thought, and I know I certainly didn't, what happened in all those intervening millions of years. It wasn't until some time ago, probably 15 years or more, when I saw a program about the Eocene and started learning about some of the creatures that have been discovered that lived after the extinction of the dinosaur. These creatures filled the niches that were vacated by the expiration of all of the dinosaurs. And it was quite interesting. It was quite an interesting world after the dinosaurs, some millions of years. So I decided for my projection here to go for 60 million years ago, which is about 5.5 million years after the extinction of the non-avian dinosaurs. And just wanted to explore that world a little bit and report back to you. And I had quite an interesting experience. I'm quite happy with it. So what happened, I left my body and started flying in the air and immediately started concentrating on 60 million years ago in the past. And was completely focused. That was the only thing that I was thinking of as I flew faster and faster until eventually the time slip opened up and I sailed down it. And as always, I lost consciousness. When I came to, and this is always the unpleasant part sometimes, I found myself in a cloudy water. I had a second of panic just from physical memories. You know, waking up in water is a very unpleasant thing when you're not expecting to do that. I panicked a little bit, and I calmed myself for a second or two and was able to think positive thoughts, and I started rising out of the water. Luckily, I found that I was only in about 5 feet of water. I was sprawled out in the mucky bottom down there. And as I rose, I saw that it was, like I said, shallow water, probably around 1.5 meters for our metric friends. Looking around, it was a typical swampy type area. And so I decided to get a better look, soared high in the sky so that I could look down on the earth and give you guys a quick view of what I saw. It's always comforting when you go in the past and the earth doesn't change that much. I mean, anybody who's familiar with the globe today would recognize that that was the earth beneath you. However, there was a few differences. Florida was a series of islands rather than a contiguous peninsula. I noticed there was no ice caps again. I don't know why. I always tend to be attracted to these warm earth periods. Of course, without ice caps, that explains the excess of water all around the globe. So let me describe to you the rest of what I saw, just in brief. I saw an inland sea from the Caribbean through parts of what is today Venezuela, Colombia, Ecuador, and Peru. Basically all east of the Andes. And there was quite a bit of greenery, tropical forests, swamps, and I decided to make a note of, because I was going to come back here and explore. I just wanted to take a look at Europe real quick. And when I did, I saw there was quite a bit of changes in Europe. Europe to the Urals was one big island. So there was quite a bit of water covering Europe at that point in time. I didn't want to do any more exploration from a geographic standpoint because my guess is our scientists have already plotted all this out, so they don't need me to tell you more. So I went back to South America again after seeing what had happened to Europe. And I also noticed that the Atlantic and the Pacific were joined because the Isthmus of Panama was underwater. All of Panama looked to be pretty much underwater. So the two oceans were in fact joined. I lowered myself at that point down to somewhere in the Colombia, what is today Colombia area, to check out what I saw there. Near where the ocean was, I found quite a bit of jungle greenery and swamps. In that area, I imagine I could see quite a bit of life. And so I got lower and lower till I was just soaring at about tree height so that I could get a decent view of what was happening below me. I soon tripped over a small herd of animals, unlike anything I've ever seen before. They appeared to be, well, the best way I can describe these things is love children of hogs and opossums. That's what they looked like. They had the girth of a good-sized hog, but they had that very strange opossum face. And so I got lower and lower and decided that for once I was going to merge with an animal that wasn't a predator. I've always seemed to merge with predatory animals typically. So I decided to merge with one that was nearby. It appeared to be a male, I think. And when I merged, I was just acting in an auditing frame. In other words, you know how people who go to college classes but don't want grades, don't even need credit necessarily. They just kind of take the course, they audit it to get the information. Well, that's what I was doing. So I was kind of the back seat driver, if you will. I didn't try to seize control and just figured I'd cruise along. Looking through this creature's eyes, close up, the vision was pretty good. However, looking a little bit further down the path, which my herd was kind of walking down slowly as they grazed, their vision was not as good as humans, and definitely not as good as my far vision is now that I got laser surgery years ago and it's 2020. So, vision, it wasn't much of a champion, but what I did notice is the sense of smell was amazing. Uh, as I walked along with my group, I could smell everything. I could smell what was edible and what was not edible. It was amazing. Even when I was at a decent distance, I could smell what was ahead. I think I relied upon smell more so than I did vision. Uh, I started eating some berries while the other group was also eating from various berry bushes. So I figured, okay, this must be some sort of a plant eater. But I stumbled upon a little frog, a little green frog that was sitting just kind of watching us. And without thinking, the thing just kind of, I guess I did. We kind of just leaned over and grabbed the frog and ate it. So I figured, okay, I guess we're omnivorous. I guess eat whatever's around, right? If it's edible, down it goes. The berries tasted good to my mind. The frog, I was of two minds of that. The beast mind liked it. My mind, it reminded me of when I was on my survival training and I basically had to eat an uncooked frog because I was starving. So I was reminded of that. It was slimy, tasted like sea chicken. But I wasn't in the driver's seat. I was just along for the ride. We continued to amble down in the group. And as I was walking along, all of a sudden I felt this weird sensation. And one of the other animals was licking the side of my body. And it was a very odd feeling. But as it continued to do that, as we walked along slowly, it started feeling cooler as it evaporated. And that's when I noticed just how hot it was. And my guess is based on the feeling of what it felt like after I was licked, as weird as that sounds, and then as it evaporated, that perhaps they used that to cool one another, that whole process, because I definitely felt cooler on that side where my buddy there had helped me out. We continued going further. I was just looking around, just the dense jungle foliage, looking for any other odd creatures. But other than that little frog and just, the various trees and tropical greenery, I didn't see much other life. I certainly heard other things going on. But once again, my sense of smell was what's really was guiding us the whole way. Just looking, you just following smells like a smell trail to get to food. I think we started getting thirsty because I found that we came out in a little clearing where there was a deep-looking body of water. And we all started kind of grouping around it and getting a drink. Now, I was driving in the back seat, as I said, but this looked like the perfect place for crocodiles. So while it was drinking, I was kind of also keeping my poor eyes open to see if I could see anything. But the water was so dark. it was almost impossible to see much of anything. Which is when suddenly an enormous snake emerged from the water and in a split second grabbed me and just dragged me back into the water itself and started wrapping its enormous self around my body. I tried to scream, and I did whatever the animal scream was. But as soon as I tried to take in another breath, and it was in its body was in mostly in the deep, whatever that side, whatever the water was there, but its head and a good portion of itself was now wrapped around me, strangling me. And every time I took a breath, it squeezed harder. I have to look back now and try to describe to you what I saw, because at the time I was in panic mode too. Because keep in mind, when you're sharing a creature's consciousness like this, you also sense not only the pleasure, but the pain as well. And the sense of being crushed was very real and very unpleasant for me. But as I think back now, this creature's head was enormous. And I have no idea how large the body was, but I can tell you one thing: my human arms would not have fit around its body. That's how thick it was. And as I think back now, because I did a little bit of research when I got back, what grabbed me was a Titanoboa. And these were enormous snakes that existed after the extinction of the dinosaurs, and they could grow up to, I don't know, there's estimates, 60 feet or more, and they weighed many tons, and they were just these enormous creatures. And as I said, the head itself just engulfed our body, and we weren't slim. And as I said, I just felt myself losing consciousness, and I didn't think about separating myself because I was so caught up in the feeling of being crushed and of being smothered that I was unable to do that. But finally, the lights went out. I felt myself rising from the body, and I even sensed the primitive animal spirit also leaving. I guess I kind of wished it well for a second. And then I returned to my human body. And as I returned to my body, I sat up in bed, gulping in air, still feeling as if there was an enormous pressure on my chest, that I still felt that memory. It dissipated in a few seconds. But that was my experience 60 million years ago, somewhere in the Columbia area. It was interesting to, I can't say that I'm afraid of snakes, but if I saw that creature in this body, I'd be extremely frightened of it. And I think everyone else would as well. Well, that was the experience. If you found it interesting, why don't you hit the like button, share it with those of like minds. Subscribe if you haven't already. If you have, make sure that bell's on so you're notified when the Wednesday afternoon and the Saturday morning podcasts are posted on YouTube. And please leave your questions and comments. Did you know about Titanoboas? Is there an animal that existed after the dinosaurs, say around 60 million years, that you'd like to meet? Any questions about anything that I saw or any experiences you've had? Be glad to hear about them. But at any rate, as always, this is Rick, and I will see you on the astral plane.